Well, as a business, we've always been quite well networked and set up, so the ability to work from home, work flexibly, had been quite easy. So the transition, when we had no choice but to work from home, worked quite seamlessly. We worked very hard, not just in a work sense and getting people to collaborate within teams and talk to each other, but also from a social sense. Health and well-being is a key priority of the business. So we were very mindful of those that might be more vulnerable or living on their own and not have the same contact support system. So there was a big emphasis placed around that and making sure that we were supporting and looking after people that might be a bit more vulnerable or might be struggling for working from home. So a lot of emphasis on that, but the ability to interact with ourselves, to continue to work, we were all able to do that on our virtual network. Clearly, we're real estate advisors, we're in property. Big part of that is getting out and about, inspecting buildings, whether that's for viewings, buildings we manage, advising clients. Obviously, a lot of that ground to a halt, and that was a challenge and frustration for our clients and for our people. And in our sector, in the real estate sector, clearly the deals and the transactional side of the business slowed down and came to a halt. The advisory side, so a lot of our clients that own real estate, that are occupiers and there was a real thirst for knowledge and advice, whether that was around managing buildings, how to deal with the regulations, tenants talking to landlords and owners about the challenges they're having with rent, talking about rent holidays and supporting their businesses for those that were struggling. And also some of the saving schemes that the government had implemented, rates, for instance, rating and taxation, big part of our business. So we spent a lot of time supporting and advising clients. And at the sharp end as well, the NHS were one of our big clients, and a big chunk of our business worked very closely with them in setting up and looking at facilities and amenities partly for key workers, but also for some of the hospitals that they set up. So it was a really busy time for everybody, whether they were sort of at the sharp end or whether they were advising clients. But as a business, we were quite well networked to do that. So people adapted to it surprisingly quickly. As we all know, the weather helped, and people, I think enjoyed the sort of the well-being aspect of it. It all felt very strange to start with, but we did a very good job of communicating with people.
Great.
So we were one of the very first businesses to return to the offices in the city centre, which we did at the beginning of June. We're very keen, as I mentioned, as real estate advisors, to show our clients how we could do this. We've got a very big property management business, a big consultancy business that works with big corporate occupiers. So we worked very hard prior to us reoccupying the offices on thinking about how we could comply with regulations, how we could ensure that social distancing was in place, and putting in place sanitisation, cleaning methods, flows through the offices, every other desk and workspace being taken out of action. So in our offices in the city centre, we were able to do that quite easily. We're probably quite lucky we were over 2 floors and we were able to create a one-way system quite comfortably. So with a bit of work, we put a plan in place. We had a very short training, but we ensured that any returner coming back to the office was aware of the policies and procedures so that they felt as comfortable as possible. One of the things that we were clearly mindful of is concerns around travel and commuting and public transport. But again, we allowed people flexibility on hours if that made it easier for them to come in at different times rather than travelling at peak times. But we found it worked quite well, and I think those that came in that first wave early in June, as much as it felt a little bit weird and a bit like first day back at school, and I can tell you from personal experience, it actually was easier than ever. It was almost like coming in on a Sunday, and to a certain degree even now in early September it feels a little bit like that. You know, I think we all know that there's still a lack of people on the roads and on public transport, and therefore that ability to distance yourself and keep safe and socially distance is probably as easy as it would ever be. And particularly in the first wave, you know, the people that were keen and eager to come back in, you know, either they, for reasons of maybe living on their own, having young children, and maybe not having the same amount of work or space at home to enable them to work easily or without distraction. Obviously, there was more of an appetite for some of those people to come back in, and also some of our transactional people, the people that are involved in sales and leasing, where I think that the teamwork is probably even more important in sharing ideas. So they were some of the first returners, but then and even now, it's really interesting to see and hear the buzz and the energy and enthusiasm that, you know, every day when I speak to a new returner to the office, you know, they're absolutely delighted to be in. They felt a little bit nervous when they first come into the city centre, but the minute they're in and amongst their colleagues, talking, sharing ideas again, they're really enjoying it, which is, I suppose, what you'd expect to hear.
Right.
I think it's just the buzz, you know, the mix of people, the life, the vitality. You know, it's one of the most diverse city centres in Europe, as we know, and the fact that we have even more bars, coffee shops, restaurants, leisure and culture in the city centre now. I know a lot of that is still in lockdown and not reopened, but there's enough availability of amenities still now, and seeing people. And even when we came back early in June and many of the other businesses weren't open, it was really interesting to see. I mean, we're in Temple Row, we overlook the cathedral grounds. A number of people that were just using that amenity space when the weather was good, sitting out on the grass and interacting. I think that's what I miss more than anything. It's that richness and diversity of life.